Hi, this is Dakota Free Press, and we're at the Brown County Fair, which is just huge and awesome. Look at all those people here. Look at all that stuff. It's amazing. And I'm at the Vote Yes on V booth with Chuck Parkinson of Rapid City. Chuck, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks. I appreciate it, Corey. It's wonderful to be here.
Hey, we're glad to have you here in Aberdeen. Chuck, tell us, why are you here telling people to vote yes on Amendment V?
Well, it's very simple. I've become, like a lot of people, disenchanted with what's going on in our political system in the country this particular time. Another reason is I spent my life in public service. I went to Washington, D.C. with Congressman Jim Abner back in 1975 and have been a lifelong Republican. My first campaign was putting yard signs around Kadoka, South Dakota for Senator Munt in 1960. And maybe I got the bug at that point and continued on at that particular point. But what has happened is the divisiveness that has developed in this country has turned off a lot of young people. My wife and I had careers and we didn't have kids till later. And we moved back to Rapid City 10 years ago, and my kids went to high school there and both just graduated from the University of South Dakota last year. And what I'm concerned about is the interest of young people in politics today, and especially the independent voters, the fastest growing group of registered voters in the United States. Pew Research just came out with a poll that said that 45% of the people in the United States see themselves as independents with no party affiliation. That's more than either the Democrats or the Republicans have. And those people in South Dakota are basically disenfranchised. And what turned me on to this initially was meeting with a bunch of friends of my kids, asking them, and they stated to me that a number of them had not even registered to vote because they feel that nobody listens to them. And to be honest with you, those kids are going to be the leaders of this state and this country in 25 years, if not before, and if they don't participate, we're in for a hard road. The other part that I found very interesting is the fact is that voter turnout has been terrible, and we've basically disenfranchised independents, and from that perspective is the reason I got on board with this plan.
Great. So tell us, Chuck, if we implement V, how, you mentioned voter turnout, in what practical way would this change to our election system increase voter turnout? Are we sure this will get more people to the polls?
There's no guarantee that they're going to get more people to the poll, but what this is going to do in my mind is that you have a situation where candidates have forgotten and legislators have forgotten they represent all of the people in their district. They just don't represent the people who elected them. And we've become more a representative of parties and slaves to the party doctrine than we have remembering that we serve, people that are elected serve all of the voters, just not that small category that may have voted for them. So I see this as the fact when you're on the ballots, you're now going to have to appeal to everybody, because under this system, it's an open primary and everybody who wants to run runs for the office in the primary. And then at that particular point, the two top vote getters, whomever they are, it could be a Republican and a Democrat, a Republican and independent, could be two Republicans, two Democrats in the district that get elected for the state Senate, but they would be the two, but those people all have to make their case to the public. And as Abraham Lincoln, I always use, and I've changed the words a little bit, but we are a government of the voters, by the voters, and for the voters, not for the parties.
And if we have candidates who have to appeal to all of the voters, your thought is that means just naturally more voters will feel they have a stake in coming out to vote.
Exactly. There's no guarantee that that's going to happen, but this last election in South Dakota, 21% of the people voted in the primary. 21%. In the 2014 election, and I heard this at a presentation the Secretary of State, Chantel Krebs, gave a couple of months ago. There are 140,000 registered voters in South Dakota between the ages of 18 and 30. 140,000. In 2014, 21,000 voted. Now, something's wrong with that picture, and if we continue along that mark, we are, in my mind, doomed. But once again, I'm looking at this solely from a standpoint We need to get independents involved. They're a voter just like I as a registered Republican or anybody who's a registered Democrat. And those independents, my wife is an independent and my daughter is an independent. And neither of them have the opportunity to vote in a lot of cases for the people who represent them in peer. And thirdly, this is not new. South Dakota has been electing city councilmen, mayors, county commissioners, and school board members for over 100 years. They're all nonpartisan elections.
We need Orion Johnson.
One last question,
to
Chuck.
his vehicle.
Tell me this, some of the opponents to V that I've heard on the press and such, they express this concern that V is trying to hide candidates' political affiliations, hide their party labels. Respond to that for me. Is V trying to hide partisan affiliations?
Corey, I don't want to take this lightly and make a joke of it, but this is South Dakota. You know, the Kevin Bacon 6 degrees of separation, South Dakota is 2 degrees of separation. You know, and it's a situation where once I meet someone and we talk politics, I don't have to talk to them more than 3 minutes, and I have an idea if they're an R or a D or an independent. Because if it's a serious conversation, and I honestly believe voters are smarter than that. All you need to do in this day of age and technology is Google it, and you find out who people are. This doesn't take away from parties promoting their candidates. This is not doing away with political parties. I think this effort will actually make, as a Republican, the Republican Party stronger in the state of South Dakota, because we're appealing to those independent voters, young voters that are going to make the Republican Party what it hopefully it will be in the future, is representing all of the people of South Dakota, just not the current 45%. Because if you add up the percentages in South Dakota today of independents and Democrats, there are only 45% of the voters in South Dakota are registered Republicans. Yet, look at the makeup of our legislature. And so we have a situation that exists that let's bring those young people in, let's enfranchise those independent voters, and let's make everybody who we elect to office responsible to all of the voters, not to the others. And getting back to the other portion of the fact that transparency, I've heard that argument. And quite frankly, I know who you are. In the legislative districts in Aberdeen, there are 23,000 voters, or residents, not voters, in every legislative district in South Dakota on average. And all it takes is the idea that you're going to know somebody who knows that person. The parties can still promote those people. The candidate can stand up and say, I'm an R. I am a D. I'm an independent. I'm a green or a constitutionalist. And people, and the idea that people are going to go in the ballot box and they won't know how to vote if there's no R and D there, quite frankly, that upsets me as a voter, because I'm smarter than that. And I think the other voters in this state are too.
All right, Chuck Parkinson says, vote yes on V. Chuck, thank you for speaking to Dakota Free Press.
Corey, I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks to you.